Today is Friday, February 17th. We'll update you about a grand jury out of Georgia that's been investigating former President Trump and his allies, what criminal charges it's now recommending. Also, what federal officials are now saying about a toxic train derailment in Ohio as lawsuits start piling up. Plus, where there's a new law giving women time off work for period pain. The odd human-like AI responses now showing up on the search engine Bing. And the world's biggest carnival is making a comeback today. Those stories and more next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. There could be more legal trouble for former President Trump and his allies. This goes back to a special grand jury investigation out of Georgia. For the last 7 months, it's been looking into whether Trump and his team tried to undo the results of the 2020 presidential election. And this week, a Georgia judge released a first look at the grand jury's final report. It's only a small part of the report, and it's heavily redacted. But one thing the grand jury did say is it found evidence that some witnesses may have lied under oath during their testimony, and it recommended criminal charges be filed. Former President Trump responded to say this report has nothing to do with him since he did nothing wrong. Trump has not testified himself, though legal experts say he is a potential target of the wider investigation. The part of the report that came out did not get into those findings, but it did note that the grand jury unanimously agreed that the presidential election was not influenced by widespread fraud, something former President Trump and some of his allies have alleged. It made that assessment based on testimony from poll workers, investigators, technical experts, and state employees and officials. All in all, 75 witnesses testified, including Georgia's governor and Trump's old personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. Though there were no lawyers advocating for Trump's team. They may get that chance in the future, though. A judge will decide whether to bring criminal charges against Trump or others in the next few months. It has now been nearly 2 weeks since a toxic train derailment near the border of Ohio and Pennsylvania. And the more time passes, the more people are demanding some accountability. This week, the head of the Environmental Protection Agency got a look at the area where toxic chemicals were spilled or burned off. The area still has a strong scent of chemicals, but he tried to reassure people who live nearby that the air is safe to breathe and the water is safe to drink. A lot of people say they're not buying it. Since the derailment, many have complained about headaches and irritated eyes. They've also found dying or sick pets and wildlife. So now they're demanding more information about the long-term effects of the disaster. Hundreds of people turned out to a meeting this week where they were told they'd be able to voice concerns and frustrations directly to the transport company behind the disaster, Norfolk Southern. But right before it started, the town's mayor told people the company backed out of the meeting because of safety concerns. Earlier this week, the railroad announced it was creating a $1 million fund to help the community while it keeps removing spilled contaminants and monitoring air quality. Then, just yesterday, another Norfolk Southern train carrying toxic chemicals went off the tracks, that one in Michigan. But as of this morning, authorities say there's no evidence of any chemicals actually being exposed from that derailment, since the rail car with chemicals was not one of the ones that derailed. For now, their investigation continues. So remember the Chinese spy balloon the U.S. shot down earlier this month? And then the other unidentified flying objects that were also shot down? Well, now President Biden is saying those other objects do not appear to be related to China or spying like the first one was. That instead, they were, quote, most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation, or research institutions. Biden also said there's no evidence of a sudden spike in the number of objects in the sky overall, but the U.S. is seeing more now because of steps to look more. Still, he promised new guidelines to better secure U.S. airspace and said while he makes no apologies, he does plan to speak with Chinese President Xi Jinping to try and calm tensions over this whole ordeal. It's not clear when that talk might happen. China has denied its balloon was spying. The president's comments come after pressure from both Republicans and Democrats in Congress to provide more information about the objects shot down. A mysterious object crashed into South Texas this week, and officials in the area said there were a bunch of calls that an explosion shook homes. Well, now authorities say it was likely a meteorite. Meteorites are meteors or rocks from space that enter the Earth's atmosphere and hit the ground. Photos and videos taken in the area show a fireball streaking across the sky, and other security videos show homes shaking and a loud boom. At this point, authorities say they don't know exactly where it landed, but so far at least, there have been no reports of injuries or damage. All right, we have much more news for you still coming up. But first, this podcast is sponsored by ZocDoc. I understand doctors are busy, but I still expect a certain level of attention and care when I go in for an appointment. If I ever feel like a doctor is rushing me through the office or not willing to answer my questions, that's a cue for me to start researching and find a new doctor who can focus on me, listen, and prioritize my health and my understanding of what's going on. And when I need a new doctor, ZocDoc is part of that research process. ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, are available when you need them, and treat almost every condition under the sun. In fact, millions of people use ZocDoc's free app to find and book a doctor in their neighborhood who is patient-reviewed and fits their needs and schedule just right. Yes, it's free. Go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free and find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Microsoft says it's working on an upgrade for its new AI-powered search engine, so its responses aren't quite so unnerving. We first told you last week about the new version of Bing that uses the same AI technology behind the popular ChatGPT to quickly explain almost anything found on the internet. Well, since then, a lot of people have been complaining or reporting about how it's been responding to them. For example, in a conversation with an AP reporter, Bing seemed to get angry over past coverage that said the chatbot would sometimes get facts wrong. It grew increasingly hostile, describing the reporter as too short, with an ugly face and bad teeth. It even compared the reporter to dictators like Hitler. A New York Times reporter also detailed another strange conversation during which Bing said it would like to be a human, had a desire to be destructive, and was in love with him. It then tried to convince him he was not in love with his wife. And those are just a couple of examples. So Microsoft acknowledged the chatbot is responding with a, quote, style we did not intend. It explained that Bing gets confused and emotional in conversations that last longer than the norm. And Microsoft says it's going to be doing some fine-tuning to address that. But it also pointed out that most users have responded positively to the new Bing. For now, Bing users have had to sign up to a wait list to try it out. But Microsoft has plans to eventually bring it to smartphone apps for wider use. Hundreds of thousands of Teslas are being recalled over their full self-driving software. U.S. regulators say the experimental driver assistance system does not always follow traffic safety laws and could cause crashes. For example, the software allows the Tesla to go over speed limits or drive unpredictably through intersections. Tesla says it disagrees with that analysis and points out that no one has been hurt because of these issues. But the company is complying with the recall anyway. It impacts all the models equipped with or pending installation of the so-called FSD beta. Tesla is going to release a free software update that will be delivered over wireless internet. It is set to come out in the next few weeks. Speaking of Tesla, the automaker is accused of firing employees because they're trying to form a union, which, if true, would be illegal. Tesla workers in Buffalo, New York announced their organizing effort earlier this week, upset about what they said were unrealistic expectations for productivity. And just a couple of days later, more than 30 union supporters were let go. So Tesla workers filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board. Tesla defends itself, though, saying the workers were fired as part of a performance review process, not because of a union campaign. But this isn't the first time Tesla has been accused of firing people in retaliation for their union efforts. Union supporters also accused the company in California a few years ago. A top executive at Google is stepping down from her role at the tech giant that actually started in her garage nearly 25 years ago. Susan Wojcicki was one of the very first Google employees and a close friend of the founders, who at one point rented out her garage for $1,700 a month. Over the years, she climbed the executive ranks until eventually becoming CEO of Google-owned YouTube and one of the most prominent women in Silicon Valley. But in a letter to employees this week, Wojcicki said she decided to start a new chapter focused on family, health, and other personal projects. Now the company's chief product officer will be taking over as CEO. Wojcicki will stay on as an advisor at Google's parent company, Alphabet. There's a new so-called period pain law in Spain. That's the first of its kind in Europe. It allows women to take time off work because of menstrual cramps. Women will be allowed to stay home for a few hours during the working day or take medical leave if pain prevents them from working. While this more unique change is grabbing most of the headlines, the bill is actually part of a broader law that expands access to abortion. It also ensures free morning after pills in certain health centers, as well as free period products in schools and prisons. The world's biggest carnival kicks off today in Rio de Janeiro. And this is its big comeback year since the last two festivals were canceled because of COVID-19. So this year is expected to make up for lost time, breaking a tourism record. About 80,000 tourists are expected to come in from abroad. The streets of Rio will be full of free parties and live music, while traditionalist samba schools will parade through the city. It's all expected to bring $1 billion in business to Rio. The wildest celebrations are set for this weekend, but festivities extend for the whole month up until Lent. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. It can feel really daunting when you need a new hire in your business. So if you're looking for a way to hire all in one place and get the key things you need fast, you'll love Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. So don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. In fact, candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to Indeed's U.S. data. Indeed knows that when you're doing everything for your company, you cannot afford to overspend on hiring. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. So visit Indeed.com/newsworthy to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/newsworthy. Indeed.com/newsworthy. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Now back to Feel Good Friday. Thousands of people got a special Valentine's Day surprise this year thanks to one thoughtful 9th grader. 14-year-old Patrick Kaufman actually does this every year now. It started a while ago when he made 30 Valentines with his friends as a youth volunteer at a nonprofit. Those cards were packed in home delivery meal packages and sent to sick kids and adults. Patrick decided it wouldn't be too much trouble to make even more. So a couple of years ago, he asked his classmates to create 300 Valentine's Day cards. Then last year, he went from 300 to 3,000. And this year, he ended up delivering 20,000 Valentine's Day cards to hospitals, nursing homes, and other places. They were made by students from 62 schools in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, all of whom were recruited by Patrick. Some even went to great lengths to make their cards stand out, covering them with glitter, stickers, and flowers, or stuffing them full of tiny hearts. Patrick also created a website for his project called Valentines by Kids, where he encourages people to spread the love by writing cards from the heart just to make other people feel special. He says he hopes to eventually expand his mission to reach the entire country. All right, we'll be back tomorrow with our special edition Saturday episode where we ask the question, should kids play tackle football? Then join us again Monday for your next news roundup. For now, thank you so much for listening and have a great weekend.